FTX completely fucked up crypto. Or at least that's what we thought was going to happen. But fucking Bitcoin's rebounding. And rumor has it someone's trying to buy FTX. Rumor has it the company I'm the CMO of put an offer out on the bankruptcy to buy out all of their debt and buy out all the FTT tokens. Currently, our chief compliance officer is contacting FTX's legal team to try to figure out how Index.ai can purchase all FTT tokens, take over, and save them. But before I go into all that, I wanted to bring on another crypto expert because crypto is a hot topic right now. He's got some crazy takes on how currency is going to change over the next few years. And they're developing their podcast. And so without further ado, the chief marketing officer.
That works, man.
The chief marketing officer for Axoken, my friend and partner, David Farrell.
All right, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're starting a podcast on what?
Man, it's all going to be about, obviously crypto, but we're really going to niche down this podcast. The first season of the podcast is going to be specifically on how to move from being a person who's only lived ever in the Web 2 space to becoming a great inhabitant of the Web 3 ecosystem. And so that will be the first thing that we're going to do is really help people to cross that bridge. We've recognized for our company as a whole that that's really the space that we exist in with all of the training and all of the learning libraries that we're putting out there. We recognize that pretty much every single person coming to us has no clue about cryptocurrency at all.
No, they don't. Like even being in crypto, I don't understand crypto. Like,
well, that's well said.
Bro, I was in Bitcoin when Bitcoin was less than 3,000. Ethereum was $75. I was at the Metropolitan Grill in Seattle. Uh-huh. I was with the head of mortgage for Wells Fargo. They were on a huge recruiting trip for me and my partner. And he goes, dude, you're going to trip out. My son just bought something called cryptocurrency. And he bought this thing called Ethereum. And at the time, it was like $50 a coin or whatever. Right. And then I went and I was like, what? So I left and I went straight down the rabbit hole of what cryptocurrency was. Bought Bitcoin, bought Ethereum, set up my first wallet, and I got out way too early. I got out when Bitcoin was $9,000 because the head of Amazon, his assistant lived underneath me.
Okay.
So the chief economist for Amazon, his assistant was a graduate from London School of Economics, Jim Calley. Jim Calley lived underneath me, and I started telling him about cryptocurrency. He's like, it's the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. Get the fuck out. Sell all your stuff. Take your wins and get out. And I was like, well, if this guy's saying it, I'm out.
Right.
Right. And then within months, we're at $60,000. Like, I'm just looking at him like, you're paying for all of my drinks.
That's right. For the rest of your life. Right.
Bastard. I would have been in Puerto Rico living next to Jake Paul right now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Can I go back? So you're starting the first season.
Yeah.
Web 2 versus Web 3. What's the difference? What is Web 2? What is Web 1? what are these web counts? Most people didn't even know there was a Web 1, 2, or 3.
Sure, right. It's just the internet, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of what it is actually how it behaves and how we interact with it, right? So Web 1, I mean, I've never really heard mention of Web 1. It was just kind of like web, right? But it was before. I remember the first time I had email. It was my first year of college. It was on a black screen with green text, and I would log into this like weird looking site, and I would grab my email, and it was there was no interface whatsoever. It was just very, very simple, almost like you were looking at code.
Yeah.
That was really the beginning of the web. It was email. It was like chat threads. Very, very, very basic stuff, right? Very few people interacted with it. And then all of a sudden, people started creating interfaces. They started making the internet look pretty, right? And so then all of a sudden, here comes all these other sites, and you can start buying stuff on the internet. And that was a really big development too. But that's for the last 20 years, maybe 25 years, we've lived in a Web 2 space. All the while we're all living comfortably in the Web 2 space, Web 3 has been developing.
Okay, but define Web 2 though. Like what is an example of Web 2?
Web 2 is, think about, it just depends on how old someone is. I remember when Amazon only sold books.
Okay.
That was all they sold. You just go on there, buy books, get out, right? All of a sudden, Amazon becomes, we sell everything on the planet,
Yeah.
right? So Web 2 is a very large development from where it was to where we're headed. But Web 2 is I get on, there's something static, there's something, they're telling me how to interact with a web page or a website. You can come on here and you can do this. And it's very kind of like A/B, right?
Okay.
Like I go, I click.
Like a business to consumer type of platform.
Business to business, business to consumer, primarily business to consumer, right? But the website is telling you how to interact with it.
Got it.
Okay. Web 3 says, hey, come on in and do whatever you want. Web 3 is a wide open space of what we would consider to be like real estate. Okay. Here's all this space on the internet, and we have ways for you to come in and interact, but we're not going to tell you how to interact with the space. You actually have more control than ever. So a perfect example of how the world now is trying to help people to interact with Web3 is we've created like Oculus glasses.
Yeah.
Right. Now I understand. I put on the glasses and I'm actually inside it. Right. And because my mind is used to having to be inside something to have freedom to interact however I want, they develop these glasses to help people go, oh, this is what it's like to be in a truly digital space. But Web3 exists whether you have the glasses on or not. Web3 is an open, expansive place that says, come in and we will learn with you as you interact with us. Our AI, our algorithms, the way that it's constructed is that we will learn how you want to interact with us. And through that, you can build, you can take away, you can sell, you can buy, you can do all these things, but you're doing it in a more personalized.
So is Web3 just metaverse?
Web3 is metaverse. You know, that's not a separate thing, but if you hear someone say metaverse, they're referring to Web3. Web3 has been around longer than people think. So if any parents out there have kids that are playing Roblox or they're playing
Dude, my nephews and nieces, you can't get enough of that.
Roblox, Minecraft, like all of that, that's Web3. Why? Because you're going in and you have freedom to explore within a space. Minecraft isn't telling you how to interact with it. You're telling Minecraft, this is what I want to do inside of your real estate.
Grand Theft Auto would say, we started this.
Yes, they would. Yeah, they would be among the first to say, like, feel free to explore, not only explore, but explore your moral boundaries as well, right? But it was one of those things where we're saying, you know, like, come in and the space is open for you to do as you will. Yeah.
You just said something that sparks a ethical question, right? About the metaverse, right? Grand Theft Auto, the morals, right? Your moral capacity. Where do you think you draw the line as far as letting people go in and do what they want within the digital space versus, you know, where's the regulation come in?
Yeah. Well, you know, when that's a super good question, Tony, because the reality is whenever you create something new, and we could go back historically and look at this, right? Like when America expanded west past the Mississippi, and it was referred to as like the wild frontier, the wild, wild west, right? Yep. Like that space actually was a very unregulated space. Lots of things that would not have been accepted in East Coast society were ungoverned in the West, right? But as it expanded, it became more populated, then it became more regulated. If you look at even the journey of cryptocurrency, where are we at right now? Well, for the longest time, since like
it's the Wild West. Yeah.
Right, it is the Wild West. But what's happening is when more and more people start to interact with it, and things like FTX happen, or people behave poorly within that space, and people who are used to living on the East Coast, now all of a sudden they're getting wronged. Well, now, you know, our towns need sheriffs. Now we need regulations. Now we need rules for how people are going to live. And that's starting to happen within the crypto space as well, where we see the government really exploring, where do we regulate and where do we not? And centralized versus decentralized cryptocurrencies was really the first time where regulation was explored within cryptocurrency, right? We're gonna centralize this. We're gonna kind of and Sammy, I believe, when he was on, talked about this a little bit, right? You did buy coins, but they're it's still being kind of governed by crypto.com or Coinbase or wherever you bought them from in a centralized exchange. So they're still kind of like regulating it.
They're still running like a bank.
Yes, exactly. And so whereas decentralized was always the space that cryptocurrency was intended to live. It was always supposed to be something that was unregulated. But there is, just like the Wild West, there's going to be risks. You have to learn how to live in that space and to take care, be responsible for yourself, right? And is it possible that we could explore boundaries of like how people behave specifically within that space? I think it's a great question. I don't really know how the metaverse continues to be what it was always meant to be or what it was built to be if it becomes highly regulated. It probably will just become a more expansive version of Web 2, but still has all of like the regulations that that standard websites have. So I'll be curious to see what that looks like over the next 10 years. But
I mean, you see an example right now with Twitter, right?
It's a perfect example. Yeah, absolutely.
Twitter going absolutely crazy right now. And the stuff that they're posting is obscene. Mm-hmm. Right? So you got to draw the line somewhere, right? Or do people just dip out and say, that's not for me?
Man, what a good question. And coming from somebody who, to speak for myself personally, being someone who has probably higher than usual moral boundaries for the way that I choose to live my life and conduct myself with other people, it is a greater curiosity for me. I like the idea of freedom. I like the idea for people to choose for themselves what the metaverse space looks like for them. We already have people that are using it in ways that I would never do. They're not really for me. And I, but at the same time, I look at this and I even have to scratch my head and say, well, who gets to decide where the line is? Yeah. Where are we looking for where that moral line gets drawn and say, like, you can't go past this point? Yeah. Yeah. That's always a hard question for society to answer. It doesn't matter whether it's in the internet or, how a family conducts itself with its neighbors. That's one of those questions I think society is always wrestling with, like, who actually is in charge of morality? Yeah. But we can dive down that rabbit hole if you want, man, but that's a big one.
That's a big one. And my brain is going. There's an episode of Black Mirror that I saw that I'm racing through my head trying to remember more of the details. But one of the things I think about, right, is like you have your avatar potentially within the metaverse that you're going to live vicariously through. Yeah. At what point does reality shift from I'm living my day-to-day life to I'm living my day-to-day life through my avatar? So, an example could be I wake up, I have breakfast, I throw on my VR goggles because my office is in the metaverse. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not going to a physical office. My avatar is now, living within this space, and my assistant's walking in, my staff is walking into my digital office. But then what happens when I walk out and some dude thinks he's playing GTA and takes out my avatar? Sure. Right? And so then the reality of it is, well, does my avatar pop up like I just died on Call of Duty? Or does it hurt? Do I want to get revenge on this guy? Like, that's the moral compass that I'm like, how ingrained are we going to be into that life to where those feelings of what's happening feel so real, right? A beautiful woman potentially getting raped in the metaverse. Like, yeah, I guess you can just take off her glasses. Or he, as a woman, because of the Black Mirror episode, can just take off his glasses. But at what point does a person who just wants to live under those inhibitions and let his ego go into that place and go after it, do you got to put a stop to it? Because otherwise people aren't going to want to go in.
Absolutely. And if you look across, television shows and media right now, you can tell that society as a whole is really starting to ask this question because we see it coming up more and more. There's a new show on Amazon Prime right now called The Peripheral. Super cool show, but it's this constant back and forth between reality and a very, very real alternate reality. But those emotions and those feelings actually cross over between the two worlds, and they start asking some pretty big questions, in that television show as well. And you see more and more of this becoming like a predominant theme in the types of shows that are being created, because it is a larger question that I think that society as a whole is beginning to, scratch their heads a little bit and wonder, wait a minute, how are we going to handle, this newfound freedom, this new unexplored space?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are deep questions, man. And I have some things that I kind of hold to myself to say, like, these are going to, no matter where I conduct myself by these personal beliefs and preferences, right?
Yeah.
But that might not be the case for everyone. And what happens when I'm in a digital space and I interact with someone who doesn't share the same beliefs that I do, but they feel a higher level of freedom to behave however they want to? I mean, those are really good questions. And you look at the flip side too. I'm really excited to have an office space in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the things that I can't afford to actually physically possess, I can have them fully accessible in the metaverse.
I'll tell you that scares me the most.
Does it really?
What you just said scares me the most.
Tell me about that.
So I'm going to go into the metaverse.
Uh-huh.
My avatar is going to be chiseled. He's going to have a six-pack. He's
Right.
going to have all the muscles I've been working out every day for.
Uh-huh.
Right? He's going to eat salads for lunch. He's not going to, my avatar is going to look a certain way. He's going to drive a certain car. He's going to have a certain house, right? He's going to have the things that I can't have in the real world.
That's going to become more attractive.
Why am I going to leave?
I hear you.
Why am I going to leave? At what point do we just have an IV drip connected to us just so we never have to leave that metaverse?
No kidding. The last episode of that show I was just telling you about, there's a character in the show who is a wounded veteran. He's an amputee, has no legs, but in this alternate reality, man, he's fully functional.
Oh, Avatar would say, "Hold my story."
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, he's literally saying, like, no, just put me on an IV drip. Literally said exactly what
shit.
you just said. Like, just put me on that. I'm living permanently in that space.
Yeah.
Just on this side, keep me alive as long as you can.
Yeah. Why? Because why would you leave? If you can have the same feelings over there, right? Because what do we really need, right? Maslow's hierarchy needs food, sex, and safety. And probably not in that order. Just, obviously my priorities are a little fucked up.
Everyone's got theirs. It's all good. Yeah.
So if you got the food on the outside,
right?
What if you can eat within the metaverse and taste the food? What if they can get it to a point where they can trigger your sense of smell, your sense of taste?
Mm-hmm.
We got auditory, we got visual, right? Now it's just touch, right? That's probably not that hard to figure out now.
No, I would agree.
And then you never leave. So then society becomes adapt and really just conforms to living within that space.
Sure. And man, this is, a very, very wide, very deep black hole when you start talking about all this stuff, and I do think that if we were to bring it back to not maybe exploring how potentially deep you can go into this, what does that look like from our end to then say, what personal responsibilities do we need to take now? You're a part of a company that's saying, hey, go explore this space. We're enabling you to go into this space.
Yeah.
I'm a part of Axoken. We're creating an economy, a whole ecosystem. Come in, explore our space. Now, we have responsibility. I know we've had lots of conversations as a company to say there will be regulations about how people can conduct themselves when they're in our real estate. So if you're within our portion of the metaverse, if you act unaccordingly to the guidelines of this piece of real estate, well, you're just not allowed back.
Right.
I wonder how many companies will say we're gonna have guidelines for our portions of the metaverse, but because it's an unlimited space,
It's ubiquitous.
Correct. So you can't necessarily say you can't do this anywhere, but I do have some hope that people will have places where they can live, interact, and even be a part of an economy in the
Yeah.
metaverse, in places where they are among people who are acting in a more preferable manner. These are all things that we go in and out of consideration. Are we there to that point yet where those types of things have to be considered? I'm not really sure, because we have such a small percentage of the population that's actually prepared to interact in that world, right? And
Yeah.
it is a pretty small percentage. So we are having still a future oriented conversation. How far in the future?
Not that far.
This is the most rapidly adopted tech ever in the history of the world. I mean, people had a harder time switching over to a DVD player from a VHS than they have adopting crypto. And so when you look at that and you look at the curve of adoption, we're moving very, very rapidly. We're talking about something that started, in like 2012, 2011, and is now becoming what it is already. I mean, we're only talking a matter of like 11 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really fast. And what it's become in that 11 years is only getting started. I might, I'll be honest, maybe I'll come to a point where I say, I'm not comfortable interacting with the metaverse only so far. And I kind of hope that there will be some limitations within the minds of most people. Are we going to have, we're always going to have those addictive personalities, right? The people who are just prone to coming, like, just completely obsessed with a particular thing or place. And those people exist all throughout our society. Now they're just finding different ways to escape reality. So will we always have those people? Sure.
Yeah.
Do I hope that most people say, and I'm willing to go this far as how I interact with the metaverse? I understand that, I mean, every single week we hear stories of large corporations adopting Web3 policies, adopting policies to accept cryptocurrencies. They see the writing on the wall as well. So you get someone like JP Morgan Chase, who 2 years ago was saying, we will never go into this space. And now all of a sudden they're applying to accept cryptocurrencies into their banking systems. I mean, it's moving fast. It really is. But call me naive. Maybe I am. But I do have hope in the human design, that we would say, and this is how far I go, that regulation is probably going to have to come more from you as an individual. Is it something that gets run over by people who are uninhibited? I mean, maybe. I don't know what we do then. I don't know what that looks like. For me personally, I don't really have much interest in like interacting with the metaverse. I don't really particularly care. I'm the world's worst first-person shooter game player ever in the history of the world. Like, I can't do it. Like, when the gun's out in front of me and the character's like going up over a hill, I'm literally sitting in my chair trying to like look over a hill that's on the screen, right? I'm just I don't survive very long. So I don't know that it's really a place for me.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm not old, but I am 47. I can't even imagine what it's like for my 13-year-old son. Like, I don't know what that world looks like for him.
Yeah. No.
And I wonder all the time. Sometimes I worry about it. Sometimes I'm really excited for him. I mean, I'm teaching him now, like, hey man, if you're gonna play games, you might as well play games and earn some crypto.
Yeah.
Instead of just playing games for no reason.
Yeah.
Right? So there is some smart things that we say, like, hey, interact with this in such a way that it's a benefit to you. But man, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this question, because
we don't know, right? We don't know until we get there. But I agree with you. There's like, I love my physical life. Now, is my avatar going to look chiseled? Yeah, absolutely. But that's because I'm a sales guy and I'm going to go do what I have to do. If I'm going to be the CMO of a crypto company, then
sure,
I need to be in it. But, I got to work out every day. I want to touch my partner physically. I don't want to do it in a digital space.
Yeah, neither
You
do
know?
I.
So there's certain things that I believe that the physical realm is going to hold us accountable to. But it'll be interesting to see the people who don't share the luxury and don't share the blessings that we do, where we actually enjoy our lives. Right?
Yeah.
Versus the people who don't, who say this is better than what I have outside.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see how you really have two factors with it. Like, how will society take care of each other,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and look out for people who may be, you know, losing touch with reality, maybe. But it even occurred to me as you were talking, you know, we have places in Web 2, you know, you talk about, you know, it would be a concern for me if my son was engaging with porn sites, right? You know, that would be a place within the Web 2 region that would, you know, there's a line. There's certain people that do access those types of sites and people that don't access those types of sites. The reasons why they do or don't vary. But the reality is we have places even within Web 2 that would kind of come up against the moral boundary line.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how has society handled that? Well, people get like really secretive about where they go and what they do. And well, we use VPNs, and we come up with all kinds of ways to essentially hide the life that we don't want people to know that we have. And we'll probably deal with that on a greater level as people become more and more involved. I think when we started this conversation by talking about our company being a bridge, that we're really trying to help people to learn how to interact with Web3. And I find it interesting to like think about that from where we went with this conversation, because I look at our responsibility now to help people to really learn and understand the benefits, especially from a financial perspective, of functioning within a Web3 space, and how it can really be part of a financial strategy that they have for their life, and for how they grow their wealth, how they develop legacy, generational wealth. These are all really important things. And I don't know that we'll ever explore even any of our training going beyond just the financial sector. That's really where we kind of extend our responsibility to say, we only want to teach you how to use this as a tool, and how it can be a bridge back and forth between Web 2 and Web 3. Taking Web 3 resources, coming back into Web 2 and reinvesting those into real estate, or to rare earth resources, or all kinds of different opportunities that might be still existent in this world that are still truly good opportunities for people. We might just live in a time and a place where our opportunity and our responsibility for people who are kind of functioning and creating Web3 companies is that we maintain that bridge, right? I know the Index has their ways that they're doing that. Obviously, Axoken has their ways they're doing it as well. But it is an interesting time. And I'm thankful that we're kind of extending our boundary to say, hey, for now, I mean, we're only going to touch how to help people understand how to correctly use this for financial means. The rest of Web3, little intimidating to me.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Brian, our CEO, he's got all these crazy ideas that he wants to go create within the ecosystem of the platform he's creating.
Yeah, well, the man's a genius.
We had 37 developers on a Zoom call this morning.
Uh-huh.
It's insanity. I'm like, dude, how do you have the bandwidth for that? I think that's the next step for crypto, is acceptance to actually use in daily life.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the bridge that we need to cross, that'll link 2 to 3. Right? Because it's difficult, and I don't think you can go on Amazon and buy anything with Bitcoin yet, can we?
No.
Right?
And they'll probably be one of the last holdouts.
Right.
Why? Because they're wildly successful in Web 2.
They don't need it.
Yeah.
But you can't, and once you're able to then use it, right? Let's say Axoken, you can't. Once I'm able to go to Rite Aid and go into the thrifty ice cream section and buy 2 scoops with Axoken, that's a different game changer.
That is. Right. Absolutely. And I love that this is actually a cool kind of new pioneer developed space right now that's happening where people are creating, debit cards where people can use them out in the real world, pay, buy gas, get groceries, do different things without it ever really leaving their crypto wallet per se, and there's some nuances with that, but being able to exchange what you have in cryptocurrency into a usable digital currency, and then be able to go and use it. I think that's a fascinating space that people are developing right now. And I think that'll become more and more prevalent as we move along. And it won't really be too long before we find that people are able to use what they have in the Web3 space in terms of currency and being able to use it in the real world on a regular basis. That to me will be a very exciting development.
Yeah, that'll be where we go from $1 billion industry to $1 trillion industry
overnight. I mean,
like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone's pulling their money out of Wells Fargo. Good luck out there.
Well, I have it there when I can truly own.
Yeah. Wells Fargo's putting tanks in front of their doors.
That's hilarious.
Who did that? China did that? Was it China or Lebanon? You fact check me on that?
Yeah, we'll have to fact. I do remember hearing about that. They literally used
Google that. Yeah, which country?
Massive military force to keep people from coming into the banks.
Yeah, because everyone wanted to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a country there that's going to go and be one of the first to go into the digital spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as all the countries are losing the value within their own currency. Here we go.
Yeah. You take an economy for example, like Venezuela, which is just just absolute disarray, right? And you take a company
is that Hugo Chavez? Is that Venezuela?
Is that again? We're getting another fact check from.
Is that? I think that's Hugo Chavez, right? That was the former dictator.
Former leader, yeah.
Yeah, that was their Fidel Castro.
Exactly, right. So you hardly, as a citizen of that country, you can hardly buy a loaf of bread. Well, what happens now when you take away, you say, we're no longer going to use your system. We're going to use a system where I'm in control of my money. It's in my possession. I have it on a cold storage wallet. You can't even touch it if you wanted to, right? And they start using a different system, and stores in their country start saying, yeah, we'll accept that form of currency. Well, all of a sudden, Venezuela can go from being a country that is pretty much not even able to sustain itself as its own country anymore to being a people group that thrives because they've been given control of their finances and a means to be able to use that for the daily life. Stuff like that, when you start talking about the ability of cryptocurrency to literally shift entire economies, that makes me super excited. I love the idea of that. And again, are there negative possibilities? Of course 100%, there are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, there's all kinds of people in this world that are living much different lives than we are. And the reality of a global cryptocurrency that's accepted in their towns, in the places they live, could really change things for people.
Yeah. But I think the adoption and the acceptance of the people, that's what it's going to take. But at some point, the U.S. dollar had to be accepted.
Right.
Yeah. What was that journey like?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know. I just learned about some family called the Medici family in Florence that apparently ruled the entire world because all trades had to go through them.
Had to go through them.
Yeah.
I remember reading about that. Yeah.
It's gonna obsess my weekend. On my weekends list, I got two things: take my daughter somewhere fun, and learn about this family and how they did it.
Sounds like a good list.
Right?
It's a good list. Yeah. Wow.
Something. Let's go to the Axoken, and you call it Axoken because of the kind of the acts of kindness, right? That you.
That's a big part about it. Yeah.
So you want to show with actual actions what it is that you should be doing, right? We started with talking about morals and right, and so here we go. What are some of the things that you look for to reinvest in the community, Have you
Yeah.
had any positive stories already any lives you've influenced? What are
Yeah, we have some stories that we can't really share, only because of the sensitive nature of the people that we've helped. That it had to be more under the radar. And we'll always have those projects within what we do where it might not necessarily be something that we put out because we're wanting to increase our social media awareness or whatever, or attract more people to our project. But at the same time, we also are looking for, we're constantly talking to agencies who are doing great things in the world. And if they just had additional resources, if they were just resourced a little bit more, like the impact that they could have would be multiplied exponentially. Those are really the people that we're looking for to partner. People who share a vision and an idea that we actually can change the towns and the neighborhoods that we live in through people working together, through generosity and acts of kindness. And yet at the same time, we've got a Christmas project coming up. We're really excited to be able to partner with some local agencies here in the Inland Empire, where we're going to make a pretty big difference in the lives of hundreds of families. And we'll be recording the whole thing and putting that out on our YouTube channel here right around Christmas time. So
That's awesome.
we're excited to be able to do the things that we are doing. The way that it works is that built into the economy of our token is that every transaction carries a 14% transaction fee, and from that 14%, 10% of that goes towards intentional acts of kindness. So every transaction contributes to our acts of kindness, builds up in an account. If you really follow that and you really consider it, as a token grows and becomes popular, as people are starting to really profit a lot from the token, there's going to be quite a lot of money that comes in that we're able to then put out into these intentional acts of kindness. So we start asking questions more like, is it possible that we could completely eradicate the need for a foster care system in an entire county in California? Like, wouldn't that be cool?
That'd
right?
be awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So no kids in the foster care system, because they're all adopted or they're all in permanent homes and they're all taken care of. Like, dude, that'd be amazing, right?
That'd be incredible.
So we're asking questions like that. We're asking questions like, how could we change the economy of a nation by providing infrastructure? And these are the kinds of things that we're asking. We're yes, we want to help the individual, but we're really interested in just coming up with some long-term solutions that really change lives for generations, not just for a moment.
That's incredible, man. Help me understand the 14% transaction fee.
Sure. Let's say that you buy Axoken, right? Well, your purchase, you receive Axoken in the amount that you purchase minus 14%. With where we are right now, it's really pretty nominal for the buyer in terms of how it affects their overall
Value.
value. But on the opposite side, that 14% comes into the company. Literally every single piece of it is broken down. 10% goes to acts of kindness. 8% goes into reflections that goes back to all of our investors. And then like 1.4% helps us to continue to grow in our marketing.
Got it.
And so it's all broken down, and we pretty much use it just to continue to build Axoken, as well as grow this acts of kindness model that we have. So we essentially just share with people like, hey, we'd love for you to sell your tokens. We want you to know that when you sell, 14% of that is going to contribute back to acts of kindness and helping us to continue to grow.
So the transaction fee isn't on the buy side, it's on the sale side.
It's on both sides.
It's on both sides.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So someone wants to buy $1,000 worth of tokens, right? So $140 goes towards.
Right. They receive
tokens.
86% of the tokens that they purchased.
Yep. What's the value of one token right now?
The value of one token. Super new, and we started with lots of room to grow. So the value of one token right now is consider a decimal point 7060.
Okay.
Yeah, is where we're at on the current price of the token.
Where did it start?
We started at 7015.
Okay.
So we've had we've had like a 4x increase so far on the token.
Got it.
Yep.
Why did you choose that? Like how do you come up with that number?
That's a question for somebody else, Tony.
Okay.
I don't actually know what the purpose was in that. I do know that it had a lot to do with how we were building out the algorithm, the number of tokens that we were starting with, the fact that we're a deflationary token, meaning that there isn't a replenishment of tokens, that once it's sold out, it continues to have space to grow in value as people trade and sell, buy from one another. The value of our NFTs are tied obviously to our tokens. And so as people find greater reasons to purchase NFTs and those increase in value, that helps to drive up the value of the token as well. Our Web3 gaming process, all those things all play into the factors of what drives up the value of the token with each level of utility that we offer. But why we started at that price, couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Yeah.
Where do you see the price in a year?
I can tell you what we have as a goal.
What's the goal?
Okay. The goal is in 1 year to have a 38.8x increase to the price of the token.
Okay.
Yep.
So how many less zeros is that?
Oh man, now you're testing me. I believe that for us to get to so every zero that's eliminated is a 10x increase.
Got it.
Right.
So you're gonna lose 3 zeros.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So with crypto, that's one of the things that I think is going to be hard to adopt in society. The mathematics behind the value of the tokens.
Sure.
Because it's hard for people. I think I'm pretty fucking good with numbers.
You are good with numbers. Yeah.
But even for me, it gets complex, right? It gets complicated to say what one Bitcoin's worth 17,000. So if I want to buy $10 worth of gum, like that's gonna be, and it's like what the fuck. So that's where it gets complicated to use. Now I got fractions of a token, and I think that is one of the limitations that as an industry as a whole we need to address. Like we need to address like valuation so that there is some simplicity behind it. Right, because
so you're proposing like almost like a standardization to
like
the value of tokens.
Yeah, and I think that the value of the tokens, right, it really is just based on supply and demand. It's how many people want this.
It's very basic economy.
Yeah, but as at least like the metrics of where we're going, like we have to have it at 1, 5s, 10s, right? Because once you go into the decimals, once you go into the fractions, it goes beyond people's head. I think that scares a lot of people, and that makes it more complicated as you try to adopt it into daily use. Mm-hmm. Right? Whereas if we had a universal understanding of, hey, this is how we're going to evaluate cryptocurrency. Here are the metrics for, hey, you're starting, you're at 0.001, right? You're at point, and these are the metrics you need to hit in order to be able to go up. But now you're talking about adaptation amongst all of us, regulation amongst all of us. Right? And that's why I'm a huge proponent of like, let's collaborate rather than let's compete. Mm-hmm. Right? Let's get in this shit together so that we can fucking dominate, because we're going up against the biggest monster. We're going up against the U.S. government. We're going up against the dollar. We're going up against the gold standard, which is bullshit now. But we're going up against these people, and we're trying to revolutionize an industry, the financial sector. Unless we do it together, we're going to lose.
Sure.
Every single time. Sure.
And that's why I love, as we continue these conversations, looking for those places where the purposes of Index and its project as a whole, the purposes of Axoken, it's regardless of, it's cool that we're actually residing in the same kind of area of California. Yeah. So we have the ability to have these real-time conversations. But whether it's this kind of conversation or it's happening over a Zoom call with other people who also have projects going on, I really do believe in finding those places where we cross over one another and we share an idea or we share a value or a goal, and then looking at how we can collaborate and achieve that goal faster and better so that we look better overall, as far as the cryptocurrency industry. So yeah, I fully agree with you, and I'm really looking forward to these near future conversations that we'll be having real soon to figure out how we can best collaborate together.
Yeah, I'm excited. And thank you so much for doing this. We'll have to do it again as we
Yeah.
evolve. And for everyone who's watching, none of this podcast is to be taken as financial advice. You know, we're just talking about our projects and what we do and some of our visions, but we're not telling you to go do anything that you don't want to do.
Sure, that is true. That is true. And yet, I said this last night. I really do believe this is a time for visionaries in the financial space, and so for those who are willing to take a little risk, to the degree that they're comfortable, and everyone has to decide for themselves what that looks like. But to look at the vision and the possibility of what the future may become or where it's headed, and to get in now with exploring and really learning about the crypto space, about Web3. I don't think that anyone will be disappointed if they decide to take this time to learn and invest a little money and learn how it works. In the end, it's really going to benefit people. And I would encourage everyone who's listening to at least take that step and begin your process of really learning and understanding what the financial landscape looks like as we go into the next few years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to get in.
Yep.
The risk has already been mitigated by FTX. We hit the bottom,
That's
y'all.
right. Thank you, FTX.
it's all bull market from here, guys. All right, man. What a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Shout out to everybody out there. Where can they invest if they wanted to? Where can they find out more about Axoken and your Acts of Kindness project?
Yeah, absolutely. So simple, www.axtoken.com. We are still in a private sale. We have not gone fully public yet. That will be happening sometime at the beginning of 2023. If you're interested in buying, presale.axtoken.com. There's also a link from our main website to get there. We'd love for anyone to check it out and to learn more about not just how they can get invested, but to learn what's the heart behind our project.
Yeah, I love your project. I'm excited about it.
Thanks.
I love collabing with you guys already.
Yeah,
right on. For everybody who's on there, I hadn't announced yet. I took the position as a chief marketing officer for Index.ai, a crypto platform. I'm still in mortgages. It's still my baby, but it's out of the bag now.
There it is.
Peace out, y'all. Thanks, brother.
Good man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.